I want you to say the W sound with me and pay close attention to what your tongue is doing. You ready? W. W. Did you catch it? Yeah, your tongue is doing absolutely nothing. So for this sound, our lips are doing all the work and your tongue is lying flat in your mouth. And that's exactly why so many children who struggle with the R swap it out. So red might sound like wed, or the word over sounds like ova. But here's the real reason R is so tricky. And it's something you might not realize. There are actually two different ways to make the R sound. One is called the retroflex R, and that is where the tongue tip curls slightly back. The other is the bunched R, and in this one, the tongue tip stays down and the body of the tongue pulls back and lifts up. Both are correct, and children lean towards one naturally. But don't get too caught up in the different types just yet, because the tip of the tongue is not even the part that matters the most. It's the back and the sides of the tongue. They need to press up against the inside of the upper back teeth. And the tongue has to stay tight and tense, so not floppy. So here's my mouth that we can use to get a better look. They need to press up against the inside of the upper teeth. So the back and the sides of the tongue are pressing up to the roof of your mouth and the inside of the upper back teeth. But here's where a lot of kids can get stuck. Before they can say the R accurately, they have to master something else first. Auditory discrimination is the ability to hear the difference between sounds. Think of it as ear training, so helping kids train their ears to pick out the R sound from other sounds. Why does that matter? Because if a child can't hear the difference between the way you say R and the way they say it, their brain has no map to follow. And without a map, practicing R is like trying to find your destination without GPS. So how do you know if your child can really hear the difference? Here's a simple way to test it. Say a word that has R correctly, and then say it again but incorrectly, and use the same substitution that your child uses. So for example, say red, and then say wed, or run and won. Mix it up randomly so that your child really has to listen closely each time. Then have them give you a thumbs up if they hear the correct sound, a thumbs down if they hear the incorrect sound, or if you have a fun bell, you could have them ring it anytime they hear the correct sound. So wed, wed, red, wed, red. So you can incorporate anything you want to make it more fun. If they can hear the difference, that's great. Move on. If they can't, hang out here for a while and start training their ear a little bit better. Now, here's something that will deepen your understanding a little bit better. Did you know that there are actually 21 different vocalic combinations of the R sound? And when you factor in word positions like beginning, middle, end, as well as blends, there can be as many as 32 variations of the R sound. Okay, so what? Well, children are often more successful with some of these sounds than others, and that's why it can be really useful to figure out which of the R's your child is successful with already. To help, I created a printable R screening resource. It's filled with pictures and target words for all the different types of R. You can use it to mark which ones that your child is saying correctly or almost correctly, and it gives you a really clear starting point. I'll link that for you in the description below. The next step is surrounding them with lots of correct R models in a short period of time. This is known as auditory bombardment. One of my favorite ways to do this is through reading books that are loaded with different R words. Two good examples are Room on the Broom and Ribbit Rabbit Robot. But you don't have to stop there. You can search online for lists of R-loaded books, and you can find a book that will most interest your child. And here is the best part about this activity. You're not having to drill. You're just reading, and your child is soaking up exactly what the R should sound like. But listening alone isn't enough. So what do we do to actually set up the tongue for success? That is where the next piece comes in. Here's a secret. Some sounds actually make the R easier to say. They're called facilitating contexts, meaning that the sounds that come before and after the R set the mouth in the right position. Think of it like training wheels when you're learning to ride a bike. When the tongue is already pulled back and high and the sides are lifted, sliding into R can be much smoother. And that's where my 5 favorite strategies finally come in to unlock that tricky R. First up, the Carla method. A great starting point is trying to use this word Carla. Now, why Carla? What's so special about her? Well, it's a magical word that naturally lines the tongue up for success. Here's why. The K lifts the sides of the tongue. The ah pulls the tongue root back. And the l keeps the tongue high in the mouth. Everything you want for a strong R. So it'll look something like this. Carla. Carla. Now, if your child is saying Carla, which is to be expected at first, what's happening is their tongue is coming up for K, for K, it's dropping for ah, and it's coming back up for l or for la. If your child is saying Carla, prompt them to drag out that R and to hold it until they get a really tight, tense, bunched tongue, and we hear an R before you explode into the la. Carla. That's even a cue. If they need to keep bringing their tongue back more, you could say Carla. And if this is really working for your child and it becomes smoother, you can carry this over into other words like cart or card. But what if your child just doesn't connect with Carla? That's okay. Let's try something a little more fun. This next method can be very motivating for younger children, and it is growling. Yep, growling. So they can choose their favorite animal like a dinosaur or a tiger or a bear, and they are growling, okay? So what we're looking for here is a strong, sustained grr. GR, that blend, it gets the back of the tongue lifted, which sets them up for R. Once this growl is solid, if they're able to say grr pretty accurately, pretty clearly, and you're happy with it, you can slide this into real words just by adding it before a word that starts with R. So in the word rabbit, you could practice grab it. Or red, you can say gred. And over time, to make it more natural, you can start whispering, saying the G very softly, so it'll sound like grab it or gred. And eventually turning your voice off completely, but still focusing on the G being first. Rabbit, red. And over time, they won't need that tool and they'll realize they're saying R all by themselves. Okay, but what if your child is still struggling and this method is just not helping at all? There's more. The Eureka trick is all about sneaking a Y in front of the So instead of saying the word your, we're going to say your, okay? Like your shirt is so cute. Thank you. Why does this help? Because Y raises the tongue high in the mouth, which makes hitting the R much easier. Practice the Y with me. Yeah. If you hold it out, yeah. Yeah. You can feel the sides of your tongue touching your upper teeth. So hold that and move straight to the Yer. And that's what this method works on. Once they get this, and if they're successful, you can build it into short phrases like your rabbit, your rainbow. Maybe you do the R screening and you notice that your child has some success with R vowels. If that's the case, this next method is for you. This one starts with a nice long E sound at the beginning. This vowel sound, E, is a high front vowel. So your tongue is high in your mouth and it's at the front of your mouth. So in this method, all you're doing is you're imagining and you're moving your tongue backwards while you're keeping it tense and tight and high. This next one starts with a nice long E sound. So it sounds like this. E. This vowel is considered a high front vowel. That means your tongue is high in the mouth and it's towards the front of your mouth. So in this method, I want you to focus on pulling your tongue back while you say this vowel sound. Ear. Watch my tongue too. Ear. Ear. As your tongue moves back, it starts to sound like an R sound. And that's because this method sets your tongue up again to be in the right position. So if this method is working for your child, lean into it. Keep working here. Pull that tongue back until it sounds like an ear. And then you practice your first word is ear. Ear. I hear with my ear. Once that's consistent, carried into words like earring or earache. Still not clicking? Don't worry, there's still a method we can try. And if your child is one that prefers the retroflex R, this is the one for them. For some kids, L is the best starting point because it does naturally keep your tongue high in the mouth. And then from there, you slowly slide your tongue back along the roof of your mouth until it shifts into an R. At first, I do this silently. There's no pressure, it's just movement. So you're practicing. You're practicing moving your tongue along the roof of your mouth from your alveolar ridge where you make your L sound, all the way back. For some kids, you can describe your tongue as a paintbrush and you're painting the roof of your mouth with whatever their favorite color is. Imagine a stripe that you're painting along the roof of your mouth from the front all the way to the back. They can practice this with real words like the word learn, and nonsense or made up words like luro or lurac. Luro. Sometimes you see breakthroughs when they're using made up nonsense words because they're not thinking as hard. I'm going to be honest, there are no rules. It is a bunch of tips, a bunch of tricks. Some work for some kids, others do not, and everyone has their favorites. Sometimes it takes one strategy to turn on a light bulb and you run with that. No matter what strategy you use, just remember, keep coming back to tongue placement. You can look up pictures and videos online with your child. You can draw a diagram of a tongue together. You can build your own tongue out of Play-Doh. Whatever visual you think would help the most, use that while you talk about the different parts of the tongue and how it needs to be moving to make that R sound. And don't forget to practice in front of a mirror. It can be very helpful for your child to see how things are moving while they're practicing. And it even gives them opportunities to make corrections on their own when they see something that they're doing wrong. So here's the roadmap. First, help your child hear the difference. Then use the R screening resource to find the best starting point. Surround them with R-loaded books for extra exposure. And finally, try out different strategies until you find one that clicks. Just remember, R depends on the tongue being tense, lifted at the sides, and in the back of the mouth. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more tips, and I'll see you next time.